That was a whole bunch of music from Spain's band Dark Moor. I mean, not Spain's only band, a power metal band from Spain. How's that? Called Dark Moor. That song was The Sphinx off of Autumnal. Before that, Canción del Pirata off of Ancestral Romance. Abduction off of Project X, that's their most recent CD. And First Lance of Spain off of Ars Musica. Now, the listings for Dark Moor do say there's a CD coming out in 2018. It's called Origins, and I don't know anything about it, but a CD called Origins could be a new CD with a song called Origins or a story about it, or it could be like a compilation of their early years. The band had an interesting history because after releasing 4 CDs, a whole bunch of the band split and went away and formed their own band called Dreammaker. Dreammaker went on to release 2 CDs and then call it quits. Dark Moor has been going strong ever since, and those 4 discs were all released after that breakup time, and those are discs that I hadn't bought yet. So I bought them last week, and they all came at once, and so I picked a lot of songs. Let's take a break from music for a little talk about horror in Ken's Dark Corner. Ken's Dark Corner, and tomorrow is the beginning of spooky season, so this is pretty good timing. October is a fun time of year if you are into horror. I know a lot of people like to crank out their 31 days of horror movie lists where you pick 31 horror movies and watch one a day for the entire month. Excuse me, I haven't done that. I watch a lot of horror movies anyway, and so I don't know that I need to do anything special to have them last through October. But this is episode 5 of Ken's Dark Corner, and so far I haven't run out of things to talk about. And this week's offering is because The Walking Dead Season 8 showed up on Netflix this week, and I watched the whole thing. All 16 episodes. I'm always a season behind because we don't have cable or satellite, so I have to wait for seasons to show up on Netflix or Hulu, or sometimes if I'm lucky the shows will get released on Hulu as they're being released, such as South Park. So South Park's current season has started, and I do not have to wait 8 or 12 months to see them because the very first episode aired on Comedy Central and then it showed up on Hulu the next morning, so that's not bad. So The Walking Dead Season 8. I've been a fan of The Walking Dead since the show began. And after the show began, I was also, quickly after that, became interested in comics, and so I went back and checked out the history of The Walking Dead. That show is based on a comic book that began its run in 2003, and the run is still going. Robert Kirkman is the author. He's been writing it all along. It's up to 184 issues. And it's been running for about 15 years, so this is not bad. I don't know if there's an end in sight. It still seems to be going strong. It's a black and white comic, so a lot of comics are very colorful. This isn't. It's a pretty straightforward kind of line-drawn black and white comic. I'm guessing that the black and white in the comic is a nod to the movie Night of the Living Dead, which sort of kicked off, the modern-day zombie craze. So what can I say about The Walking Dead Season 8, I can't recommend it. I used to like this show a lot. I would go through the episodes quickly and with excitement and with trepidation because it's kind of like Game of Thrones. I mean, a totally different setting, right? But in the sense that it's an ensemble show with a lot of characters that you get to like and who are always at risk because you never know when one of them is going to get killed by zombies. Or by other people, as the case may be a few times. But now that we're off at Season 8, One of the problems with this show is that the cast that started kind of small has just sprawled, and there are so many characters to try to keep track of that it's very, very difficult. So in this season in particular, we start coming out of the end of last season, where a big battle between two communities that have risen up is about to take place. So, the quote-unquote good guys live in a community now called Alexandria, which has been, basically society rebooted in a small commune that they've named Alexandria, right? And that's where all the good guys, we'll call them, live. And then there's another location, and now I think it's called Sanctuary, but I might be wrong. I didn't write it down, and now I'm drawing a blank. That's run by a group called the Saviors, and they're the bad guys. They run around asking for protection money from other communities that they say they're protecting. And their head honcho is a loony guy named Negan, who's a really interesting character, or at least he was for a while, until he got to be sort of a parody of himself as we went on in the way he behaved. And so these two are just about to go at it because Alexandria wants to be left alone, and the other group believes that they should be under the big umbrella that they run, and things like that are not going to go well. And so this season opens up, and basically the first 5 episodes are just one long battle, which got pretty boring pretty fast. So one of the problems with the season, and it's getting worse, it wasn't so bad at the beginning, is that I lose, I don't know if other viewers are like this, but I lose any sense of space and location in terms of where these places are, how far apart they are, because there are some instances in the show when, based on the story, it's necessary for a character to go from, say, Alexandria and end up at the main hub, let's call it Sanctuary, of the bad guys, the Saviors, or vice versa. Say somebody gets released from Sanctuary and makes his way back to Alexandria. And in the episodes, that can happen, in a beat. But they can't be that close to each other, or they would just be walking all over each other. There are some intermediate locations. There's a place called Hilltop, which is apparently in the middle of these two, which is a place that had been taken over by the Saviors from Sanctuary, but then kicked out. But now the Saviors want to take it over again. A group from Alexandria goes and helps beef them up with their security and kind of takes over running the place to make sure it's going smoothly. And I have no sense of how far apart these places are from each other. Characters get split up into small groups and go walking all over the place from one place to another, and it's just woods, interminable woods. No sense of which direction they're going, where they're going, how long it's going to take them to get there, how far away they are from anybody else. And so that gets to be pretty aggravating. What would also be aggravating is if I didn't remember to tell you right at the top of the hour that you were listening to Mostly Metal is the big show, and this little tiny part of it is called Ken's Dark Corner. We're doing this at 103.1 FM in Valparaiso, Indiana, WVLP, Valparaiso's community radio station. I continue talking about The Walking Dead Season 8. So I whined about the fact that I don't see there's a sense of space or location, and one of the reasons that becomes a problem is that there's so many smaller groups walking around, doing different things, going to different places, shooting things, whatever is going on. And there's way too many separate groups that you have to keep track of. And one of the problems is that the original group, like the OG Walking Dead crew, at least the ones that have survived, they have been split up, and they end up being, kind of like leaders of a lot of these different groups. And I don't like it when that happens. One of the reasons I like shows like this is that I like the characters and I like them being together and I like their interactions with each other. And when this person goes off with that group and this person stays here and those two people go off with those, and now you've got to follow them all separately, and the main characters of the show don't get to interact with each other anymore, that makes it a lot less fun. I have the same problem with, say, the more recent Star Trek movies, right? The most recent Star Trek movie begins with the Enterprise getting destroyed in the first 10 minutes, and this is like the third time that's happened in the last 3 movies. And that in itself bugs me because the Enterprise is a character in itself and they just keep blowing it up over and over. But anyway, so in the very beginning of the latest Star Trek movie, the ship gets destroyed. The main characters, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, they should always be together. The only reason to watch Star Trek is to have the main group of characters be together and interact with each other. And they immediately get separated because of, they all land in different spots on the planet. And that just spoils everything right away. And the same thing has happened with The Walking Dead. Too many characters in too many different places. Narratively, what they do is they jump around in time. So the seasons now pretty much always open with some sort of emotional panorama or pained look on somebody's face, like somebody's just died. And then you have to wait through the rest of the season to see what leads to that scene, right? That's kind of a crutch that they've been using. But even within the midst of any one episode, right, something will happen, and then you'll see a scene that's actually before that in time to explain how the situation arose to cause whatever it was you just happened. And that happens way too often. It gets confusing to follow, and it's just, I don't think it's not effective in a narrative sense when it happens as much. It got to the point where, like, there was a major character death in this particular season. I won't say which one. And by that point, I didn't care anymore. It didn't bug me, or it didn't affect me as much as it might have years ago, which is sad. The supply of bullets in the Walking Dead universe is a very interesting thing because this season opened up with a battle that lasted like 5 or 6 episodes long. And these battles are basically just people hiding behind pickup trucks, shooting at each other. And they're not really shooting carefully. They're just jumping up and spraying bullets everywhere out of their automatic weapons and then diving back down behind the trucks. The number of bullets that get used in this firefight, this ongoing, never-ending firefight, at the beginning of the season, then also later when it resumes again, is enormous. Okay? Where do they all come from? Maybe they all got into military bases and gathered all these bullets, but one of the main plot lines of this story is that there's a character named Eugene who is basically the only person that Negan's side has that can effectively and give you confidence in the bullets that he is able to make. And so he makes this assembly line for people who make bullets by hand, one at a time. So I want to know how, if the bullets are in such limited supply and there's only one person that really knows how to make them, and they're doing it by hand, how in the world do they get enough bullets to be spraying out of automatic weapons for 5 episodes straight? I don't know that either. I've noticed that in the Walking Dead universe, all the people that are zombies must have been at some sort of wardrobe convention because all the zombies have exactly the same wardrobe. Almost every zombie that there is in the show, at least the guy zombies, is wearing a t-shirt with an open long sleeve button down shirt, right, that hasn't been buttoned, or maybe a light jacket, but it's the same wardrobe style on almost all the zombies. And okay, yes, you're in Georgia, or you were close to Georgia, and maybe you're out of it. I'm not sure anymore. But I don't think everybody had the same wardrobe like that in the real world. So, and I don't think zombies change clothes either. So anyway, I'm not a fan of this most recent season of The Walking Dead. I am a big fan of the comics, and I have allegiance to the show because of the early good seasons. And so when season 9 comes around, I'm sure I am going to watch it. But unfortunately, just taken on its own, I cannot recommend watching season 8 of The Walking Dead. One of the great things about The Walking Dead, though, even in season 8, is that it used to be the case that, like, if you were a horror fan and you wanted to watch yucky gore, like zombies biting people's faces off, you would have to go to the video store and hope it was one that had a nice horror section in a back corner somewhere and look for these obscure movies that you never came to the theater, but now you can find them on videotapes. And now you just turn on AMC and boom, there it is. No problem. Which, I don't know if that makes it less fun, but it makes it less... I don't know what the word is. I should have written it down. It makes it less endearing, I guess. It used to be sort of a special thing. Ha ha ha, I got this movie and I got to see all this terrible zombie gore. And now it's available to everybody way too easily. Well, that's Ken's Dark Corner. That's my take on The Walking Dead Season 8. Not a fan. What I am a fan of is cheesy heavy metal, symphonic power metal, neoclassical power metal with keyboards and harmonies and all sorts of things like that. And so the rest of this hour will be dedicated to that kind of music. Kicking things off here is a song by the masters of this sort of music, Symphony X, off of their disc The Odyssey. This is called Awakenings.